freebies become freebies, and when are such announcements examples of welfarism and good governance? While the Supreme Court says there should be a debate on it, the opposition is now charging the BJP with double-speak on the Reveri debate. Finance Minister of Tamil Nadu, Dr. P. Thiagarajan, whose quotable quotes on the freebie debate have been going viral, has now launched another attack today. In a tweet today, he says, and I quote, "So I'm confused by the Reveri debate. Do the actions of the Honourable Chief Ministers of UP, Haryana and Puducherry, all BJP governments, violate the Honourable PM's view, or one rule for government, other for opposition, or one rule for BJP, other for all other parties, or do as I say, or not as I do?" Now, the actions of BJP-run states he is referring to include in UP, where women will be getting free bus rides if they're aged over 60. In Puducherry, another BJP-run state, 1,000 rupees will be given monthly to women between the ages of 25 to 55. Those who are the head of families and BPL families. Free laptops will be given to class 11 and 12 students in government schools. Free bicycles to class 9 students in government schools as well. He's also referring to Haryana, which is giving a subsidy up to 25,000 rupees on purchase of indigenous breeds of the cow. Now, what the central government headed by the BJP is saying in court on the issue of freebies is very important to see in this context. These are some of the arguments being made by the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta in court. And among the many things he has said is that freebies is a road to economic disaster. Freebies distort decision-making of voters, and by the end of 5 years, freebies are taken back. He goes on to say, elections are fought only on the freebie plank. Some think freebies are the only way of welfare measures. These are some of the very, very crucial things that the Solicitor General on behalf of the central government has been saying in court, where this entire case is being listed to and listened to. A debate has been now suggested by the Supreme Court on the issue of freebies. Now, let's look at these statements and contrast it with what is actually happening in BJP-ruled states. In UP, the BJP before the last assembly elections promised 1 lakh rupee for marriage of girls from poor families, free public transport for women over 60, a promise that has now been fulfilled. So in terms of governance, well, they've done what they said they would do. In Gujarat, for example, the BJP has promised free Wi-Fi connections and textbooks. Likewise, in Himachal, free power up to 125 units has been promised, subsidized bus fares for women. Similarly, free LPG cylinders and unemployment stipend of 5,000 rupees a month has been promised in Goa. Promises have been made in Punjab and West Bengal too by the BJP. Now, I'm not saying that only BJP-run states or only the BJP offers freebies. Every party tries to outdo each other in promises before assembly elections, after they come to power, and they're often quite similar. So electricity, free electricity, which is seen as a Aam Aadmi Party speciality, is something that other parties have also promised in state after state. So why is there a different position in the centre, and why is there a different position in the state? To speak more on this, I'm joined today by Tuhin Sinha. He's the national spokesperson of the BJP. Sarvanan, the spokesperson of the DMK, with us on the show. Tushar Gupta, senior editor, Swarajya, with us on the show, and Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, joining us today. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us on Beyond the Headline. Mr. Sarvanan, let me begin with the comment that the DMK has been making in court. In fact, the Supreme Court today, in its observations, also said that they're very aware of what is being said. Do you honestly believe that freebies is not an issue? That the unending promises in the name of welfare are bankrupting several states? And I'm not talking about Tamil Nadu, but in generally, politically, the kind of freebies that are being promised by political parties is an issue?
Yeah, see, I can speak for the state of Tamil Nadu, and India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. The answer lies to the question in the words socialism and democracy, which is finding place in the preamble. What we are doing is true form of socialism. What is socialism? Socialism is trying to bridge the inequalities in the society. Even the Supreme Court Even the Supreme Court has given definition of what socialism is. It says we should come out of this feudal lord mentality and feudal lord setup and ensure that everybody gets equal treatment and equal opportunities and equal measures of state government. And directive principles of state policy, which is prescribed by the Constitution, exactly states the same. Though they may not be a fundamental right, every government should strive to work for it. And that is what we have been doing in the state of Tamil Nadu ever since the DMK, the Dravidian parties have taken control. I can compare and contrast 1965, Bihar, the annual income, average income of everyone was around 350, and in Tamil Nadu, the average income was around 400 rupees in 1965. In 2020, the average income for someone from Bihar is 46,500. In the state of Tamil Nadu, it is 2,25,000. We have been following this so-called freebie culture.
No,
And
so
look at the
Mr.
development.
Sarvanan, but you've not answered my question. I know Tamil Nadu is a state that does very well. And it has been
Yes.
doing very well on all, GSDP indicators
Absolutely.
for several years. But that is not the debate today, is it, sir? The debate is that your leader and your finance minister says that there is double speak. Why UP and Haryana is giving freebies? Why can't we give freebies? I'm asking you, as a thinking politician, do you think freebies is not a problem, an endemic problem? If I ask you to look beyond party lines.
No, see, it is not an endemic problem. It is not a problem at all. That is what the Indian society requires.
Okay.
That is why my answer. What I said is the answer. We have been following this feudal setup for the last 1,000 years. There was caste oppression, social oppression, and you want them to be uplifted. This is the only way.
Okay.
There
So
is
he's
no
saying
other way.
freebies is the
And
way it works. We've been doing it for
it's
so
not
long,
freebie.
since
It's a welfare
1960.
measure. I'm saying
Okay.
freebie is a derogatory term.
Okay.
Because it
Freebies.
is a welfare measure.
Tuhin, Sinha, the question is that does freebie become welfare and welfare become freebie depending on which is the political party announcing it, or
Absolutely.
which is the party that is implementing it in the state? It seems a bit hypocritical, doesn't it?
Good evening, Tamanna. Good evening to all the panelists and to the viewers.
Yes.
Well, I think the stand taken by DMK spokesperson makes it very clear that some of the regional parties can only be myopic in their thought process. In the last 1 year, nearly rupees 1 trillion has been distributed by various state governments in the form of freebies. So I'm not blaming any specific state governments. Almost all state governments are complicit in the problems and are guilty of encouraging this culture. What does 1 trillion rupees mean? Roughly 1 lakh crore. And what does it eventually result in? New schools not being constructed, new hospitals not being constructed, new public transport buses not being on the road. So this is, I think one needs to look at it from a national perspective. And in various states and across the country, this freebie culture has been thwarting development, has been thwarting real benefits, and also,
But Tuhin, why don't you walk the talk in your state governments? Why don't you walk the talk?
If you ask me, I don't approve of the Pondicherry budget. I was just glancing through it, of the series of freebies announced in it. And I think somebody from Pondicherry will be able to better explain it. But the point over here is that the Honorable Prime Minister has always believed in, he has a reformist mindset. So this change may not happen immediately. But like one election, one nation, one election, like UCC, the time has begun to debate this. The time has begun to make the state governments realize that, brazen and unrestricted freebies are eventually going to damage your own governance record, which is very evident, at least in 2 states.
So would you extend that? Would you extend that? Would you extend that? 1 minute. I'll let you come, Mr. Sarvanan. But I just want to ask Tuhin a follow-up. Would you extend that criticism of the Puducherry budget to UP, to Haryana, to the promises made in Himachal? Would you extend it? Because it's not just one state.
All these states, especially in the last 2.5 years, were grappling with different issues. So if UP provided tablets, it was in the middle of, the state was coming out of the third wave of pandemic where education was restricted. Students were not able to go to schools. So I think different state, each state has a specific problem. I can only speak at a pan-India level, and the Prime Minister has set a vision by talking about it.
Okay.
I think Ashwini Upadhyay's PIL is very futuristic, and those two parties which have openly condemned it or which have openly gone against it, DMK and AAP, have a lot to answer. DMK might be lucky to survive with a good governance record or comparatively good governance record in Tamil Nadu, but at least, the damage which Aam Aadmi Party's policies have done to Delhi and Punjab are already very visible.
Aam Aadmi Party has just taken over Punjab, so you'll have to give some time before
No,
blaming them for the poor economics of Punjab. 1 minute. No, because Punjab issue is a longer issue. The longer issue. Okay, A. Sarvanan wants to respond very quickly, and then I'll get everyone else in. Yes.
I think it is empty rhetoric when they say that the national development is will fall because we are giving mindless welfare measures. We are doing mindless welfare measures. That has got no backing. When the union government slashes the corporate tax and gives the benefit of 1 crore 50 lakh to the corporate friends, what do we call that as? Is that a freebie? Is that a welfare measure for the friends of the BJP? Or the corporate loan waiver? How do you term that? What way do you term that? Is that not spoiling the economic future of the country? Why did you write it off?
First of all, there is a big difference between write-off and loan waiver.
No difference.
Most of the opposition parties.
No. Corporate tax. No. 1 sec. Mr. Sarvanan, he has a point. Corporate tax being cut is different from write-off of loans. Corporate tax was cut in the hope.
Loan waivers are very different.
The corporate tax was cut in the hope that industry would invest in new businesses and hence give employment. The fact is that they haven't done it. Now you can say it's because of the pandemic. The fact is that they haven't done it. Anyway, Tehseen Poonawala. I want Tehseen Poonawala to come in. Tehseen, where do you stand on this debate? The Supreme Court today says this must be debated, this must be discussed. We can't take away the fact that the way people look at what is a freebie and what is a welfare move depends on how they're politically inclined. And which is what worries me about the whole issue, which is essentially an economic policy and governance issue.
Good evening, Tamanna. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Good evening to all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. And I share your concern. It is deeply, deeply worrying and disturbing, not just with how our citizens look at this issue, but also how, with due respect to the Honorable Supreme Court of India, before whose majesty I bow, the Honorable Court is looking at it, and how the Union government is looking at it. But for perspective, I just want to make one point. I remember when the whole Food Security Act debate was taking place, and I've always been a vociferous supporter of the Congress, and that's not hidden. I was called to the then Prime Minister's house, and I remember this one statement: India has food, India has hungry people, the food must reach the hungry people. Now, will you call this welfare or will you call this freebie? And the reason I ask this question, it's a rhetorical question. Tuhin, don't jump in. The reason I ask this question is because the BJP opposed this policy tooth and nail, and it is within this particular policy in COVID, the present Honorable Prime Minister managed to give food to a lot of people in India, despite the fact that India is still fallen down in the food hunger index and rating. So let's understand that this is a worrisome debate. But what makes it more worrisome is the way the Union government and the honorable courts have come down on this issue. Now, let's understand that India constitutionally is a federal country. It's a union of states. Various states have come to form this great nation called India. Under what constitutional authority is the Union government or the honorable courts, please may I finish? If you want to come in, you can come in after I finish. Please allow me to finish. Taking a position on what state governments should do. How a state government runs its state is the domain. I know the questions that are going to come.
But Tehseen, they don't say that the central government is not saying that state governments should not give freebies. They're not saying state or center. They're making a general overview.
But the center's position is against it. Therefore, I'm coming. When the center gave food, was that freebie? It wasn't. It's welfare, right? Now, what defines welfare? Let me, please, I'm trying to link that. When the same current Honorable Prime Minister was Chief Minister of Gujarat, so let's compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Gujarat is a big so-called developed state. Let's compare it to Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. On both these states, and Tamanna, I want your research team to fact check me, even to date, particularly when Prime Minister Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat, on every health parameter, on every human development index, not 1, 2, every, Gujarat ranked below Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. You know what the Honorable Prime Minister said? women in Gujarat are endemic because they want to do fashion. Now, Gujarat did not invest in it. Now, my economic theory to it is when you have a fit population, you have a healthy population, you have a larger working
Tessin, you're
population.
digressing, aren't you?
I'm not.
You're digressing.
Hear me out. I'm not. Please allow me to put my point. When you have a fit population, your economy will grow. Now, let's extend this argument to free bus rides for women. You would say, okay, this is a freebie. But when women are allowed to use a bus and more women participate in the labor force, the economy grows. Now, I agree, this is subjective. Let each state government decide what they want to do. Why does a court, and under what constitutional authority is a court coming
What
down
about
to
free
decide what is
electricity? 1 minute. Then what about free electricity? Tuhin, I
Very
want you
good.
to come on free electricity. 1 minute. Let's open it up. Let's open up. Tessin, let others also participate, please. I'll come back to you. Let others also participate. Poor Tushar hasn't had a chance yet. But let me come to Tuhin first. What about free electricity? Free electricity is a bugbear. I'll tell you why I'm picking up free electricity, Tuhin, because that's something the Aam Aadmi Party has made its sort of emblem. It goes everywhere and says, we'll give you free electricity.
Absolutely, and I wanted to come to that.
But, isn't it true that in Himachal Pradesh, the BJP is also saying we'll give up to 125 units? Why is that?
You know, the way Aam Aadmi Party has been promising or waiving off electricity dues everywhere, I think that is rather irresponsible, or I would say mischievous. Because let's take the case of a specific state like Punjab. In Punjab, what is the biggest menace right now? Drugs. Drugs is the biggest menace. But instead, if your focus is on providing free electricity, which nobody needs, eventually what will happen? It will only aggravate the problem of drugs. Because if people are given free benefits, they have all the more,
Tuhin, that's a long shot.
So
People who want to indulge drugs will find a way to do it, whether they're given free electricity or not.
If the problem is something else, what makes the Aam Aadmi Party believe that the only problem the country is facing is electricity? We provide electricity. At the time when we took over government in 2014, there were 18,000 villages without electricity. We believed in providing electricity connections. We have provided through.
Okay. Sarvanan wants to come in.
We don't pamper the population beyond that because we also
All
want
right.
them to be
That's an
independent.
important term. Tuhin Sinha says you shouldn't pamper the population. Now, what is pampering?
We want them to be independent. We don't want to kill their competitive spirit eventually, which is what Aam Aadmi Party is doing in both the two states.
All right, so free laptops will not kill competitive spirit.
Punjab. The results of
Free laptop will not kill competitive spirit, but free electricity up to certain units will. Sarvanan, you want to come in on this? Because Tamil Nadu is traditionally known for going one step beyond. Free sarees, free TVs. Is that now pampering or welfareism?
See, it all depends on whom we give this. We give free electricity to all the farmers. This has developed the livelihood of the farmers. We have the Prime Minister who came to rule the country promising that he will double the income of the farmers. Where are we now? We are the ones who are walking the talk. We are making the farmers' life little livable by all these things. And in Tamil Nadu, we also have other things. That first 100 units will not be taken, and we have slab system. See, it's not unmindful welfare scheme. As far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, we have always given targeted. We have targeted the population. We have targeted the areas. We found out where they need a little push. In 2007, we gave gas stoves to all the women. What would you call this? This mindless? This improved the quality of the life of the women. They were not used for fire, burn fire. This is now what the Prime Minister.
But why, Mr. Sarvanan, free sarees? Why, Mr. Sarvanan, free sarees and free TVs?
Yes, free TVs, I'll come to it. In 2006, color television was a symbol of caste oppression. Not in the cities, but in the villages. You can watch color television only in a place who has a higher caste, who has money. They'll have to go there, go to their house, sit there, pay money and do that. We ensured that everybody got a color television so that even the illiterate are unaware of what is happening around the world. It improved the livelihoods of women.
All right. What this tells me is that a state government will always have a reason. You will always have a reason, and it's a calculated one. It could be for upliftment. It could be for, attracting voters. Tushar Gupta, how can you decide that if someone does it, it's wrong, and the other person does it, it's right, depending on your political leaning? Now, that's what is really bothering me. The same free electricity promise becomes bad when it's Aam Aadmi Party, it's fine when it's the BJP. The same free laptop promise becomes bad when it's some other party and good when it's the BJP. How is that fair? Isn't that double standards? Isn't that hypocrisy?
Good evening, Tamanna, and good evening to all the fellow panelists. See, first point is the Supreme Court has no business deciding what's a freebie, what's a welfare, and what should be allowed. It's a debate between the electorate and the legislature. It's a debate between the voter and the politicians. It's for them to decide what they want to continue with and what they do not want to continue with. If the electorate feels that the government is being disproportionate with its freebies, they'll vote them out. It's not the Supreme Court place to get into the policy making. I want to clear that out. Number two, we have to decide that it's not about the caste operation, it's not about socialism, it's not about party. When we differentiate freebies and welfare, Tamanna, I'll give you some examples. Free electricity for you and me is freebie because we are taxpayers. We can afford our electricity, we can afford the water, we can afford the free food grains, even during 2 years of a pandemic. But for 800 million people residing in rural India, free food grains are a welfare. Today, a 5 lakh health insurance for family of everyone on this panel would be a freebie because we can afford that outside from our own income. We are that level economically for whatever reasons.
But Tushar, who is giving freebies to anyone who is on this panel or like people on this panel? No party and no government is giving freebies to anyone who is in this panel.
Tamanna, what is happening in Delhi? Why free electricity and free water for the last 8 years? People living on Barakhamba Road are getting certain units of electricity free. If that is not freebie, what else is? That is what I'm against. I'm all for state-backed support. I'm all for socialism. I understand as a country there is a large population that is not earning enough to be aspirational, that is not earning enough to put their kids through education. I understand the need of socialism. I'm not discounting that. But what I'm saying is, if you have to go for welfare, and this is not about any party or any government, at least enable them. Ayushman Bharat is an enabler if it's happening in the village.
My issue is, and I'm asking a political question today. If the BJP-led central government is so clear on its stance, as represented by its Solicitor General in Supreme Court today, Tuhin saying it's a visionary thing. But this is a statement being made today. This is something that the Prime Minister is saying in rally after rally, that revdi ki culture band kijiye. Then आप अपने घर से शुरू कीजिए. तुहिन सिन्हा, आप अपने घर से शुरू कीजिए.
I'll answer that too.
No, let the BJP spokesperson should answer it. No, Tushar. 1 minute.
When I said it, the Honorable Prime Minister made a visionary statement. What I eventually meant was that it's going to take some time for us to come on a consensus on what is freebie and what is not. But the point is that the very fact that we are having this debate is that the next step should begin, which is to identify what is a freebie and what is luxury. And that can only be done, as the Supreme Court would suggest a way. I'm sure the Supreme Court would suggest a way out. But the point is that those who still live in denial, like the TMK, the Aam Aadmi Party, they have a lot to answer. What I heard Sarvanan also. The point is he's kind of showcasing the performance of the state. The debate is not about that. Today you may be in a good spot, but eventually if you don't combat these unnecessary expenses, a situation might come when you might have to be reduced like the way Sri Lanka is battling with its problems.
So no, not at all.
The point is that the
Tamil Nadu will become Sri Lanka, but nothing will happen to the other. Okay, 1 minute. A. Sarvanan wants to come in. 1 minute. He's talked about Tamil Nadu. A. Sarvanan wants to come in. Yes.
I think it is comical that comparing whatever is with Sri Lanka. Nobody gave freebies in Sri Lanka or any welfare measure. It fell down. The economy shattered because of their short-sighted policies. That should be a lesson to the union government, where they don't have good policies to showcase or to control the economy, to administer the economy. They should take a leaf out of that. This is nothing to do with the culture. Why I was talking about the performance of the state of Tamil Nadu is this. From 1967, when DMK took to power, we have been this so-called welfare measures that has been an integral part of both the DMK and ADMK. And I'm saying that is why we are where we are. So please don't preach us. Don't tell us that, oh, you are in a good position. We are in a good position because of those policies of those welfare schemes. If you look at 2 states, In contrast, we can look at Gujarat and we can look at Kerala.
Okay, can I ask you something, Mr. Sarvanan? If these welfare measures / freebies, depending on who wants to look at it how, are contributing to how well Tamil Nadu has done, why hasn't this happened in other states in India? Because the welfare / freebie culture is not restricted to Tamil Nadu. It's an integral part of Indian political heritage. It's been going on, I would say, since day one. Why has it not had that effect anywhere else? If it's cause and effect that you're trying to draw a parallel with, it should have happened everywhere. It should have happened in Punjab.
Because they have not followed the policies with the same vigor as that of the state of Tamil Nadu for the last 70 years. Let's take the midday meal scheme. How many states in the country have followed this midday meal scheme from 1960s, 1970s?
Okay.
And look at this year, there is a gross enrollment ratio of the state of Tamil Nadu. It is 51, whereas the national average is around 27. There should be consistent follow-up of these policies, not just one cycle for 10 years. It's not going to change anything.
Okay, Tehseen, when I speak to economic experts on this issue, many of them say that if you want to give help, now in today's India, you have DBT. Transfer the money. Don't, bato these reveries and make sure it's not targeted. Do it via DBT. Do you think that's a system we should start moving towards, or this is something political parties will never do, because at the end of the day, they do also want to win elections?
So again, that's complex. DBT already exists. It always existed even before the Prime Minister came in. The pilot projects happened during UPA. But there is also certain amount of, in DBT, is the money being spent for what is supposed to be spent on? So those studies have still to be concluded. For example, if you're giving somebody direct cash, what if the person, instead of health, is spending it hypothetically on liquor? And I'm not a moral policeman. So those studies and those reports are not out. What I'm trying to say is, and you asked me about electricity, I'm going to join to this. We are a federal country. Each state has a right to decide what it wants to do, and the electorate will decide. When the union government or when the Supreme Court comes down, it is deeply worrying for our constitution, because they don't have the mandate to do so. And that's the problem. The problem is when the money that states like mine, I'm in Maharashtra, or Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, which pay much more to the central government, much more to the exchequer, are being told by the central government who's contracted the Indian economy, whereas Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu economy have grown. That because what is the Prime Minister's locus to talk to us on economy? I'm seriously asking. He hasn't paid the Maharashtra GST dues. He hasn't paid Tamil Nadu GST dues. What is the Supreme Court's locus? They don't have a locus to say they don't have a constitutional position. B, when my benefits, my tax money is going for states that are not doing so well, I am for welfare. I am not saying they should not get it. We are a country formed on welfare. Welfare is what will take India, was the dream of our founding fathers.
So then freebies is not a problem in your view, Tehseen. You're saying freebies is not an issue.
One man's luxury is another man's necessity. Now, what is luxury and what is necessity? Let the electorate decide. The Prime Minister sitting in Delhi, or with respect to the Supreme Court judges, they cannot decide. When a woman is given a free bus pass, Tamanna, you are an empowered woman. There may be women who cannot go to work in the evening because they don't have transport. You have to understand the policy and let the government make a policy. It is difficult and scary when courts come down in policy. They shouldn't.
Tuhin, your response on this? It's between the voters and the politicians. But my counter to that is, why will voters say don't give us freebies?
They will, because they don't want to see
a necessity. Does Tehseen consider free electricity in Delhi a necessity for him?
May I answer that? May I answer that specifically?
I just one second. I'll just complete another show.
Sure.
See, I think the very fact that for an average citizen, or for the need has come for us to evolve a consensus that suits all, and I think that is where these steps are necessary. I would request the DMK spokesperson to convince his party to support the PIL like the central government is doing. And I don't see any reason let Aam Aadmi Party be the only party opposing it, because their track record speaks for itself.
Tuhin, but then will your party stop giving promises? Will you stop offering freebies? Because you can't have a long-term vision for your party, but everyone else should fix themselves today.
Tamanna, like I said at the very start, out of 1 trillion rupees distributed by way of freebies across the country by various state governments, all state governments are complicit. This is the time to rise above party politics, and we can't look at it from one party's point of view or the other.
No, but it's your party who's proposing it at one end.
No,
the problem is with the double speak, Tuhin. On one hand,
Yes,
you have this
yes.
grand vision, and on the other hand, you continue by the same
Prime
rules.
Minister's clarion call becomes very important. The time has come to bring
No,
about
no. Can I come in?
changes in our political
Can I
culture, which
ask a
has not
question?
been there so far.
Yeah.
All right.
Just a moment.
Okay, Tehseen first,
Just a minute.
and then A. Sarvanan. Yes.
Yeah.
Why doesn't the most honorable Prime Minister of India, the supreme leader, the most powerful man in the history of India as per BJP spokespeople and supporters, make a clarion call in Himachal Pradesh and say, Mitro, मैं आपको अभी कोई freebie नहीं दूंगा, मेरी पार्टी गलत है. Why doesn't he go when he went in Bihar on the mic said आपको कितना पैसा चाहिए, 40,000 करोड़, 50,000 करोड़, 60,000 करोड़, 1 लाख करोड़ जैसे नागपुर से ला रहे थे. Why doesn't he stop making these clarion calls? The visionary only thinks visionary in terms of states that are doing well. Why can't he make these clarion calls in Uttar Pradesh when he's contesting in elections on Shamshan Kabristan saying, I will not create as many Shamshans or Kabristan? Look, ultimately, हाथी के दांत दिखाने और खाने के अलग होते हैं. BJP should walk the talk and tell us under what moral authority or economic authority is the BJP treating
Is
the
this
country.
just an election issue?
Yeah,
One
yeah.
sec. A. Sarvanan, is this
Tamanna,
just a
Tamanna,
political
yeah.
election issue? Yes.
Yeah, see, I think this is a statement made by the Prime Minister. This is merely political gimmickry. It has got no economic vision. If they had any modicum of economic vision, Indian economy would have fared well. We
No,
know
some
how
would
the
argue
economy
it's
of the
fared much
country is
better than
handled.
others
Just a
after
moment,
2
just
years
a
of
moment,
pandemic.
I'm coming to it. Yeah, I'm coming to it. See, everybody in the BJP is promising a freebie. Mr. Amit Shah is saying he will give free electricity to farmers in UP if elected to power. This was prior to the UP elections. Madam Nirmala Sitharaman goes to Bihar and says we will give free vaccination if we vote BJP to power in Bihar. So who's the hypocrite here? Or how come the Prime Minister suddenly become a visionary when he has not controlled his party people?
Tushar, do you think that the only way freebies and whatever clear, unanimous definition there is of freebies can be removed from the system by leading by example, and the BJP is best placed to do it because they already have a powerful set of wins under their belt. They're the most, powerful political party today in India, and they can afford to say, okay, we don't need this crutch to win elections. They should lead by example.
No, Tamanna, I really don't understand the inference you're making here because you're attacking the BJP on freebies. When the BJP is engaging in welfare, you want to ask a political question to it. Arvind Kejriwal, who's the kingpin of freebies, was the one who was questioning the outsiders from Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Punjab coming to Delhi for COVID-19 treatment, not the BJP. It was Congress that was offering 72,000 rupees to every family, the bottom 20% in the economic pyramid in 2019 elections, not the BJP.
Okay,
not
should I pull up for you? Should I pull
No,
up for you everything that the BJP has offered in the last few elections, which includes Mehngai Bhatta for the unemployed, which includes laptop, which includes free electricity. But they have offered it. How is it my bias, Tushar? They have offered it. Are you denying that they have offered it?
Political question. No, you're asking a political answer. Tell me,
No. I don't know if you're understanding the question, Tushar. Should I repeat the question for you again in clearer terms? I'm saying if the BJP is serious about its claim of removing freebies as an economic scourge from this country, shouldn't they lead by example?
It should, and it is. So I'm saying we have to differentiate between welfare. Is Ayushman Bharat
the exact same. You keep talking about Ayushman Bharat, but it is the exact same promise that the BJP is making. 1 minute. Let me pull up something for you. In the last few elections, the promises being made by the BJP is the same in many cases as the Congress, as the Aam Aadmi Party, as early as Punjab. There are many promises which overlap. You pick up the manifestos before these elections of all the parties and see for yourself, Tushar, if there is any massive difference. You cannot claim honestly, hand on heart, that everything that the BJP promises politically before every election is a welfare measure. by your own yardstick. Can you honestly
All
do
I'm
that?
saying is,
Can you
I
honestly
agree.
do that? No, because you made an accusation on me, so you must answer me. Can you honestly say that every electoral promise made by the BJP before every state election is a welfare measure and not a freebie in your own parameter and in your own definition, Tushar?
In my own parameter, in my own understanding of economics, I can say that every electoral promise made by the BJP is not a freebie. But I cannot say the same for Arvind Kejriwal or Rahul Gandhi or Mamata Banerjee. That's my answer.
No, so you're saying, so are you saying that the BJP also makes promises which you would define as freebies?
I would certainly, I'm not saying that the BJP doesn't make freebies.
All right,
but
I'm glad we've cleared that up. Yes, Tehseen.
Yet my reply to my dear friend from Swarajya magazine is very simple, that in the tenure of the Congress or in the microscopic tenure of the DMK or the AIDMK, the country nationally or the state did much better than what it's doing under Mr. Modi. Now, you may argue COVID, you may argue other countries, but the economy for the first time in 40 years has contracted.
How is that relevant to this discussion?
I'll tell you why it's relevant. I'm specifically coming to that. When I offer people 72,000 rupees who don't have a job as an employment guarantee, I am making sure that they are not left out of the bus of development of going ahead, and I'm motivated enough to create enough jobs for them to create to make sure that they get jobs. I am increasing the pie. When the pie is like a pyramid in the BJP scheme, where only the top 1%, the rich get richer, but the rest below start getting poorer, that is problematic. The pie that the DMK or the Congress, or in this case the AAP is talking about, is a circular pie where the slice goes to everybody.
They are offering the same schemes. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. What the BJP offers is the same schemes that everyone is offering. Everyone's doing the same thing, but everyone's saying different things. Effectively, at the end of the day, the BJP government at the center has continued Manrega. They have continued their own version of right to food, especially as we've seen during COVID-19. They brought in their version of universal healthcare, which Tushar keeps referring to as Ayushman Bharat. This is something every political party has promised to do and wants to do. So my question once again is this all just rhetoric? Where is the differentiation?
See, Tamanna, I will answer this. There is no differentiation. The Prime Minister wants to do a political victory, once again a political victory over this freebie debate. They are, I think, scared of AAP in Gujarat, because I think the Gujarat elections are around the corner and their finances are so low. So the BJP there cannot offer what the AAP offers, is going to offer in Gujarat. Probably they're scared of that. To control the AAP, I think this debate is artificially created by the Prime Minister.
It's quite a complex political conspiracy, Mr. Sarvanan, because the BJP's vote share in Gujarat has been consistently multiple times that of the AAP. Okay, but anyway, yes, Tehseen, quick, last round of comments and then I will wrap. Yes, Tehseen.
Look, at the end of the day, we just have to see the context. Is this welfareism lead to better quality of life? And let's talk about Gujarat. Gujarat has the lowest human development index in the country amongst all the big states, including West Bengal. Now, if you were to offer women in Gujarat something so that they are not anemic, is that welfareism or is that freebie or is that ravery? In Chhattisgarh, they've opened 500 English medium schools to encourage their kids to come to English medium schools so that they move away from the regional languages and learn English and become global citizens. Parents are being given certain benefits. Is that welfareism?
So broadly speaking, 1 minute, broadly speaking, can we agree, Tushar, can we agree health, education definitely don't come under freebie, and basic food rights so that nobody goes hungry? These three things are essentially the job of any government. If they're not doing this job, then they're not basically fulfilling their essential responsibility. So this is not in the freebie category.
Even electricity is a state subject. I'm sorry, Centre has no role to play in it. Centre is unnecessarily interfering, and so are the courts and the grids. I'm sorry, electricity as
No, I'm not talking about centre or state. Tehseen, I'm not making this distinction of centre or state.
Even electricity is a state subject. No one has a business to say what I do with electricity.
Even health is a state subject. I'm saying.
Yes, so I'm adding electricity.
I'm saying in the point of view of centre or state government and what they offer at their level.
Add electricity to it.
Why do you think electricity is a basic requirement?
Because it's a state subject.
No, it is.
No, apart from being a state subject.
whether the electricity quality is good, bad, free, not free, the subjects of that state will decide. Not the center, not the
I'm not
central.
talking about
not
the
the court.
jurisdiction, Tehseen. You're understanding
I'll
my
answer that.
question
I'll
and
answer
yours.
that.
I'm saying, what
I'm
is the
saying good or
argument
bad?
for giving free electricity apart from
electricity-
I have a right to give it?
It has to be given so that everybody get the same quality of life, because without the quality of life of electricity,
Okay.
you cannot have a level playing field.
This clearly
How
needs a
is
deeper...
someone living in a 20 crore house eligible for free electricity, Mr.
They
Tehseen
don't get free
Tamanna?
electricity. They don't get, Mr. Tushar.
Yes.
If only we leave WhatsApp University and come to reality in Delhi, I don't get free electricity. I pay higher rates in Delhi than I pay in most places because the units that I consume are much higher. It is to a certain amount of units which only the poor consume.
The
Why
moment
is
you
300
hit,
units
the
free
moment you
electricity
hit
for
that
someone who can pay
threshold,
for it?
Yes,
Tushar,
the
they
rates
change
go
it.
higher.
Aap changed it
Yes.
recently. The moment you hit that basic threshold and you consume more, your entire bill
But why?
gets chargeable.
You can
Anyway,
pay
this
for all
requires
the
a longer
electricity.
debate.
Why
I'm going to
would you
wrap
give
this
it
here, but thank you so much, Mr. Sarvanan, Tushar, Tehseen,
Thank you.
Tuhin Sinha had to leave earlier,
Thank
but
you,
thank you
Tushar.
to
Thank
him
you.
as well. I think we need to identify whether we're going to decide what's a freebie or not on economic terms, on policy terms, or on political terms. And the last one is the dangerous one.